when you're restoring an old classic car, kind of like this car right here, this isn't the car we're restoring, I'm sorry, this is a parts car. We literally had to buy a whole car, and then of course I gutted it down and then I stripped it out. And I also went as far as cutting the roof off the car so I can get into the car with easy access. You can see where we cut it off. This is actually a 4-door car, and the car that we're restoring is a 2-door Mercedes-Benz, which is right here. Now this is a 1976 Mercedes. It's a W115. I don't know, I think it's a 300D W115 model. It's the moonroof model, 2-door hardtop, and it's very, very rare. You can also see in the picture where I have removed the left-hand rocker panel complete, and I've also removed 90% of the floorboard. Now take a good look at this. This is a unibody car, so this is where the front section of the car actually welds to the body, and there's actually a brace missing that goes this direction here, and we're going to need that off the parts car. So you see how important it is when you're restoring these old vintage classic cars, whether it's a German car, an American car, European car, Japanese car, whatever you're restoring, you pretty much nowadays end up having to have a parts car. So if you look over here, you can see how rudely and objectively I removed those parts from the car because we're not going to use those. But what we are going to use is the parts off this car. And I need to keep this front apron in as mint flawless condition as possible when removing it. So I am going to have to cut every individual spot weld. And if you look right here, you can see here's all the spot welds that are starting right here. And each one of these spot welds has to be completely drilled out precisely, goes all the way down here, then it comes across over here, down here, and then this bolts to the frame rail here, and then of course the frame rail over here is spot welded onto the core support, which the core support is spot welded to the aprons of the car, and on and so forth and on. I am precisely removing all the pieces I need on this car, and if we look right up in there, you can see there's that brace I was talking about. I need to remove that, so you can see there's still some undercoating left around that brace, and I told him don't worry about that. I just need it where the brace is so I can visually and precisely find those spot welds that I need to cut off to get that brace off in a usable piece. So the lesson today is going to be how to remove spot welds precisely and accurately where I can actually use this piece again.
Welcome to D.I.Y. Automotive School with my friend Pete and Minnie, the body shop girl. It's everything you need to know about cars and more.
Now, they actually have tools that are spot weld busters. They have little drill bits, and they got a little hole saw on the end of it. And then they also have a little kit, which I actually own, which is this kit right here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull one of these out so you can see that. This is a busted one, but we can still get the idea what's going on. It's a little miniature hole saw, and then on the other end of it, you got a nail head. After you drill the 1/8 inch hole that you need to drill into the center, then you would take this saw, and then it would cut it out and get rid of your spot weld. But by using this particular kit right here is going to take a long time you're going to burn up these tips, especially when you got to take all the spot welds off that we're removing. And you probably won't be able to get in tight areas with this like you can with the system that I'm going to show you. And the system that I'm going to show you is going to go a lot quicker and a lot more accurate, and it's going to give you a better precise spot weld cut to remove those spot welds exactly the way you want them, where this whole thing should just lift off of here with ease. So the first thing that I'm going to use is I'm going to go ahead and take a good old Sharpie marker, and we want to make sure that it's a good marker and it has a nice sharp tip on it. And I am going to go ahead and mark all my spot welds all the way around the whole area that I am going to remove. So I will take my marker and I am precisely going to put a small dot in every spot weld right in the center. I want to try to get in the center as close as possible as I can. And that's very, very important to do that, because that's where our first hole will be drilled. You heard me right. We're going to have to drill a couple holes on this and to get that off properly. And then once I get these marks, I'll go ahead and complete it by following it down. You can see right here where I'm finding my spot welds. And that's the reason you leave it in bare metal, because you can see the indentions very, very well. Even by putting epoxy primer on here is going to give you a situation where you won't be able to see the spot welds as good as being in bare metal. Once I have my spot welds marked and I know where I want to drill, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our drills themselves. And you heard me correctly, I have two drills here. Let me show you what I got. I got one drill that's got a small bit in it. I believe that's a 7/32 bit. And then this bit is approximately 2 sizes bigger than the diameter of the spot weld itself. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to make sure that I cut all of the spot weld off. So what's going to help us the best, and the reason we're using 2 instead of 1, is because if I just use this one bit, I'm going to drill into the spot welds. How can I explain this? And it's going to burn the tip up, and I'll go through 100 drill bits to get all these spot welds up. So by using a smaller bit as a pilot bit, that's going to make this bit last longer, and it's also going to center me up, because this is a bigger bit, you can see that, and the bigger the bit is, the more inaccurate, I might say, I said inaccurate, that you will get that to hit dead center, because that's the main objective. We got to hit dead center on that spot weld. All right, so what I've done is I went ahead and drilled the spot welds out, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get my other drill that has the bigger drill bit on it. Go ahead and plug that in. And then we're not going to drill all the way through this. All we're going to do is go through the first layer on the piece that I want to keep. And then by doing that, what I've done is I literally cut the spot weld off of the piece that I'm going to keep. Let me get some more of these done here. We're going to go down the line. I'm going to start here, and then I'll work my way all the way around in a circle just like this, and I'll end up over here. This is going to take several hours to get this done. Let me get all those spot welds cut out exactly the way that I've been showing you with the 2 drill system. And when I get done, we're going to go ahead and pop this thing off and see how precise my friend Pete is by cutting spot welds the my friend Pete way. All right, I believe we got all the spot welds cut on this. Let's take a look and see what we had to do to double drill these babies out to remove this whole apron. So if you look right there, you can see there was a lot of spot welds on this thing. Just not hundreds of them on both sides. We got the frame rail that's tied into the core support, and then over here the same thing. Spot weld after spot weld after spot weld. And on this side here, I don't know if you noticed over there on the right hand side, but on the right hand side it was spot welded right here. Well, on the left panel, this is something you gotta really pay attention to when you're doing this, okay? Is that this side here actually goes in behind this inner cowling or whatever you want to call it, and the spot welds are actually right here. So what I've done is I went ahead and released these spot welds as well, and then once I take my chisel and hammer, we'll bend this back to get this panel out of here. Now, one more problem we ran into is this was a diesel car. This was a diesel Mercedes. You can see it has the extra bracing on it on the firewall, which the car that we're restoring doesn't. And the battery is actually over on the left side, not on the right side. We will have to remove that battery box, and what I'll do is I'll take my Sawzall and I'll saw that part of the frame right there underneath it, and then that'll release that from the frame. And then once I get the front apron off, you can already see I started drilling the holes out for it. There's some more underneath that I gotta find that holds that on, and then we'll get that off. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my Sawzall. Hopefully this will work. I mean, the only other way I can imagine doing this is using my plasma cutter, which I really don't want to do. Is I got to cut this. There is like a lip on this frame rail here, and we got to cut that to release this box. And the reason I'm not taking the box out now is because this is spot welded to this, and I don't want to rip that off. I don't want to rip it where it will possibly damage our inner fender wells. So I'm going to go ahead and take my Sawzall, and we're going to see if we can cut this thing off and see what happens. And I see what happened. This cheap ass fucking saw won't hold a blade. I hate these kind of fucking saws that have this shit. You have to pull this thing open, and then you put the blade inside the hole and hope it stays in there. It's a Mickey Mouse operation. It's nothing like it used to be. Now, if I can't get this off, I could probably take my cutting wheel in there, which I might have to do, and cut that off. Okay, that ain't gonna fucking work. Son of a bitch! You know, they don't make tools like they used to. The tools today, or basically anything, is so engineered to be the cheapest fucking junk there is. It's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. But let's go ahead and get this done. So what I got now is I got my cutoff wheel. And we're going to see if we can get this good. That ain't going to work. It ain't going to work. We're not going to be able to do it like this tool. It ain't going to fucking work, guys. Get it out of there, throw it in the trash, and get her done. Well, I didn't want to go to this extreme, but the only way we're going to get that off of there and release it from the frame, and we're not even going to keep this battery box, is we're going to have to take the air chisel to it. I'm sorry, okay? I'm really, really sorry that that's what we have brought ourselves to doing. Sometimes they engineer these cars where they're too over-engineered. If that makes any sense. So what we've learned so far is that you can get all the spot welds that you want, but there's always going to be more waiting for you somewhere. Kind of like these. Right here. And that still didn't get it off of there. Okay, we got one spot weld off. We got one. Let's see if we can get the rest of this loose so we can get this out of here. Okay, we got it. Wow, I don't believe it. All right, now that we have got that far on it, what we're going to do now, and this is where it starts getting really tricky, we are going to break this loose, but we're going to do it by hand. We're going to really try hard not to use any air tools on this because we got to keep that perfectly flawlessly clean so we can slide it on the other car. And what I'm going to do that with is these two tools right here. This is a concrete chisel, maybe a finished chisel for floors, I don't know. And then I also got an old wood chisel. I also got my safety glasses, remember that. So the piece that we're not going to use, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and take my pliers and I am going to grab that and bend it out of the way. Now when you hear that popping noise, that means that the spot weld is free. That means that it's busted free and we're okay to go. So if you hear a popping noise, that means we're in good shape. And I'm just going to take my old wood chisel and some of the spot welds are still going to be tied to it. You just got to be able to work it out. Okay, I think we got it. Right down it just like that. And it feels like I hit spot weld that I didn't hit. There it goes. Okay. And then what we'll do, we'll just go down the frame rail here where the spot welds are. And get those babies cut off. And some of them are going to be hard, but that's okay. Look right there, you can see what we're talking about. That's the area where that shock tower brace is. So it's very important to make sure that you have all the right tools. So we'll just continue to ride down that frame rail, busting out those spot welds until we get her done. Okay, we have literally went and removed the whole front apron. We can't take that off right now because it takes two people. I'm going to have to wait till Minnie, the body shop girl, gets here. So when she gets here, we're going to go ahead and remove that. And I'm going to show you what all the hard work and being very precise and accurate pays off to do. Okay, we got Minnie, the body shop girl, out there behind the camera. Now, we got this whole front clip ready to come off of here. You understand what I'm saying? Minnie? Yeah. Okay, I've been showing them about busting spot welds, this, that, and the other. So, the only thing I think holding it is if you bring the camera over here, we got two spot welds. If you follow the core support down to this frame rail, there's two here. And then, of course, over here, there's two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my old wood chisel And don't use a new wood chisel. If you got a nice wood chisel set, don't use that for this. And always make sure you have the safety glasses on. Very important for this. And if you look real close, I don't know if Minnie can see that. You can see where I busted that. I'm going to go ahead and hit this hammer. Maybe Minnie can get in there. And that's already loose. So we still got something that's holding this on. And I believe it's going to be down on the bottom. Okay. There's some hidden spot welds in this that we're going to have to actually cut. So what we're going to have to do is we'll have to take my air chisel and we'll have to break that off of there because that's kind of a tricky situation. I'll bet it's the same on this side too. It is. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and take the air chisel, and sometimes when you do this, it can really get to be a nightmare because you got hidden stuff. And the only way that we're going to get this off is basically cut this part of the frame rail off.
That side looks loose now, Pete. There it is.
All right, here it comes right here.
All right.
Okay. We have finally gotten to the point. I want to show you what's holding this up here. Get this off. And you can see by removing it, by precisely cutting the spot welds, we have saved this piece. And it should, once I take my hammer and dolly, I'll hammer and dolly all around. It should fit on here on the other car perfect. So let's go ahead and take it off. And I want to show you that sometimes they put this stuff on layers. This is a layer situation, kind of like Shrek. Okay, you know who Shrek is?
Yeah, hold the camera stuff. I gotta go.
Where are you going?
I gotta go to work, Pete.
Okay, hang on a second, please. It's like Shrek. Okay, he's like layers, you know, like me. Okay? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, so we got the metal right here. What are you doing?
Well, you didn't want to hold the camera, so I'll put it up here.
Okay, don't mess with my camera up, please. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Minnie, the body shop girl. You haven't been that big of a help. I did it by myself. Yeah. So anyway, what we were talking about here, Minnie's got to go do a little part-time job that she does. When you're removing this type of stuff, it's like layers. See, they take one piece and they put it on top of that, then they take the other piece and they put it here, and then by the time you get done, it's kind of looks like this. So what we had is we had a situation in the front frame rails right there, and we found out that the way that this was installed is that they put the frame rails on first, then they put the core support on that, and then once the core support was on, then they put the inner fender wells on top of that. So by doing that, it basically hid this tab right here, and then that, by losing that tab, by that tab being hidden in there where it was spot welded on, caused it from not coming off. So now, once again, we're not keeping these frame rails. This is a parts car, but on the original car, we still got all of the tabs left because I did it in reverse. So there's one piece down. That's how you do it. That's how it's done. That's how you get them spot welds off. It's called the 2 drill bit spot weld system. You start out with a pilot hole, and then you get a drill bit that's 2 sizes bigger than the spot weld itself. and then you take your chisels and your hammer and you work at it and you get her done, and that's the way it's done. This is Pete, my friend Pete, your friend Pete. I gotta get this in epoxy primer. You see what's going on right here. This was from a visitor that came over, decided he wanted to touch everything, and basically I told him 100 times, don't touch anything, but he touched it anyway, and then wiped it off with his sweaty t-shirt, and that's what happens when you're working it with sandblasted metal. You don't touch it. Don't touch the metal.
Thanks for watching D.I.Y. Automotive School. Classes don't stop till you know everything.